All right, it is episode 66 of the Zenspath 4-Button Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Powers, down here in Florida. Also down in Florida. This is just going to be a weird opening for today. Why not?
Down there in Florida.
Florida, yeah. We're going to record this early, then I'm going to go watch a movie. But down further south of me, Rachel.
Hi, I'm glad to be back again this week, and I have gained 2 new enemies, Warbler and the guy who does the violations for my HOA. Watch out!
Yes, because that's just weird. But that whole story about that, like Rachel came on here angry. We had to give her some time to just kind of get over that a bit.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, and also from up north, our other friend who continuously shows up, Joie.
Yeah, we call Chicago North Florida.
I wouldn't do that.
Few people know that. I mean, it could be just as humid. So
I'm in North Florida then, but why? Whatever. We're off to a weird start.
The North is
also,
Florida.
just to notice, this is episode 66, recorded on the 6th. It's evil. All right, so
It explains my anger.
yeah,
yeah,
and suddenly it all makes sense.
So also a special shout out to the GMG group. You can go and just die in a hole for trying to take our show. But let's just go into, Rachel, you want to start us off on what you've been playing or what you've been doing?
Well,
do it.
I'm basically done with my MegaCon cosplay lineup. For those of you that don't know, MegaCon is a convention that is in other areas other than Orlando. I think there's like 2 other MegaCons, and they're all run by the same people, basically parent company. But MegaCon Orlando is in 2 weeks, and I basically got everything done, except for like one thing. But I guess I'll just talk about my lineup. Thursday, I'll be doing a cosplay of Lydia Dietz from the animated Beetlejuice series.
Oh,
I've had that cosplay for a while, but I recently just kind of improved the wig a little bit so it looks a little better. And then
I have an old picture of you in that.
Yes, you do. That was the first year I wore it, I think. It is much better now. And is completely finished, thankfully. And then on Friday, a new cosplay. It's going to be Naja from What We Do in the Shadows, and my friend a buddy of mine from California is going to be visiting, and he's going to be my Laszlo. So that's going to be great. We're going to have a great time. And then, of course, Saturday, I'm going to be a Death Eater. That's going to be fun. I'm going to die of a heat stroke.
Is that how you're going to show up to the HOA?
Honestly, if it wasn't on Saturday, I would, but I'm tempted to show up on to the HOA if they continue to be complete and total dicks. Tempted to show up not next Friday, but the Friday after, dressed up as Naja with a big spooky black umbrella, and just show them my vampire fangs and see what they say. They'll probably go running. And then on Sunday, I will be Bombshell Cheetah, which is another cosplay I've had for a while. So only 2 new things. The 2 new things are very warm and not at all suited for Florida weather. But as a wise number of cosplayers once said, cosplay is pain.
Yes, it is.
So
it sounds right.
Yeah, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be my first con in about a little over 2.5 years. The last con I went to was DragonCon 2019, which was a long time ago now. It feels like it was almost 10 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
But I already know a few of my friends going to Mega this year, so it's going to be great to reunite with a lot of people I have not seen in a long time. So I'm excited. And then I haven't really been playing anything new since, outside of streaming Trails of Cold Steel, which I will be doing on my Twitch channel after we're done recording this.
Oh, hell yeah. I'll watch. Oh, wait, have you started yet?
Yeah, I did. I've
okay.
streamed,
I missed the first
I've streamed like a total of 3 times, but the second time didn't really count since it was only like a 30-minute stream because poor Suki decided to just
dog.
lose her lunch all over the house.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no.
No, it was a bad time. But she's okay now. So I'm not very far in. I'm just like just after the first dungeon where you're trying to join a club.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not super far. But I'll be doing that after this. Probably will eat as well. But
And where would they find that?
Twitch.tv/outrageous. So yeah.
Obviously, if you're hearing it now, she's already done this. This will be for you to go back and watch it previous time.
Yeah, go watch the VOD. As they say.
You ever put those on like YouTube or anything, or you just keep it on Twitch?
I just keep it on Twitch. I don't have the time to go through and, clean up video and upload and all that kind of stuff. I just don't.
Gotcha.
Maybe one day I will, but I'm happy enough just doing Twitch stuff for now.
I can be lazy about it. I've got it set up where it'll record locally a better version of it. So when I'm done, I can just throw that file up there and be done with it.
Yeah.
Which works out fairly well.
I'm also just lazy.
That's what I do too.
Yeah.
I'm very lazy. I still have to upload my FF6 playthrough. It's been sitting there. Not hanging
we
out.
agree with the lazy. We know how much of that like mold you have on your house.
Oh, Jesus. Jesus.
It was Jeremy who made that report, by the way.
Oh my God.
We didn't
I've
want to
got
say
the
anything.
photos to prove it.
Oh my God.
Mhm.
Drone shots, everything.
He was gaslighting you earlier.
Oh Lord.
Lord.
I'm still mad. I'm calming down, but I'm still mad.
Sorry, Jeremy. I had to be a snitch.
No, that's fine.
I couldn't live this lie anymore.
I don't have to worry about it because even if she comes down here, she won't even come over here to hurt me. So
Down? Down?
All right.
Are you sure about those directions, Jeremy?
yeah, it's a reference. I say going down to Virginia all the time, so whatever. So, Joey,
there's a joke here. I'm not going to make it though.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Joey, what you been playing or what you been doing, man?
Apparently getting kicked off the show. No, I've been. What if I
keep making these jokes? Rachel's going to kick me off the show.
That's fair.
I might
usurp your role.
Yeah, give me the logins. Go away.
So before, I think we started this the last time that we spoke on here. But my girlfriend went through 13 Sentinels, and I was hanging out with her while we were doing that. I played that when it first came out for PS4 and loved it. And it was really cool to revisit it. It holds up really well. I mean, it's only been out for a couple of years, but it still holds up really well. It was really fun to experience that. And then for some reason, I think it was the battle stuff in 13 Sentinels. Rachel, did you play that game?
13 Sentinels? I don't think so, no.
I think you'd like it.
I will have to look it up. I have my
it's
back.
A VN.
Okay.
But it has like a strategy RPG ish element to it that kind of feels like how do I describe it? Diet ogre battle. And so watching her play that made me want to replay the ogre series because it's been a long time since I replayed it. So I went through the Super Nintendo. I played through the whole series, just wrapped up the GBA game, and that's it. I played there was a Neo Geo Pocket ogre battle called Prince of Zenobia that I didn't even know existed, and it's pretty rough. Yeah, it didn't come out in the US.
Oh, okay.
It's right over
that
here.
Makes more sense.
Right there. But it's Neo Geo Pocket color game, and it's okay. The problem is that it's in Japanese. There is an English translation, but they only did about 5% of the game. So when you make a English ROM hack, you essentially usually have to dummy out the Japanese text. So this game doesn't have the Japanese text; it's just like numbers and random symbols. And so because of that, I couldn't even use Google Lens. I should have just used Google Lens. But so went through that. And been trying to, which is a lot of fun. And so because that game came out and I didn't even know it existed, I went back and I tried to pick up some stuff that I have, like some egregious gaps in my collection. I picked up the rest of the Rune Factory games. And some of those DS games are really expensive.
Yeah, no
So
kidding.
you hate to see it. But I got if you're just patient enough with it, you can get it. Not MSRP by any means, but like within reason, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's been a lot of fun. I think next I'm going to. I can't tell you what game we're playing next for Super RPG Friends, but it's another series that I'm going to be playing through.
Is it an RPG?
No, it's actually an H game. So that's that. We're shifting gears. We're getting real degenerate with Super RPG Friends. It's just all
Now
of
I'm
us are going to be
confused.
streaming from our hot tubs. We're going to be voting on waifus numerous times during our
God.
streams.
What?
I would rather die. I would honestly rather die than be that person. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. That's all I got. What about you, Jeremy? How are you doing?
Pretty good, actually. I actually haven't been playing that much game-wise recently. I've been so busy with work and everything else going on. I'm still playing Advance Wars Dual Strike because Nintendo won't get off their butt and give me the Advance Wars remake they've already finished.
So when I saw this in the notes, I got confused for a second because I thought you meant the new one, but obviously you didn't. So I was like, oh yeah, the DS one.
Yeah. And it's been a lot of fun. It has a combat mode I was not aware of. It was only in this one, but you go onto the map and you take direct control of whatever vehicle or character you chose. And you're just like driving the vehicle around or person and like hitting the button to attack in real time. It's super weird. I'm not a fan of it, but it was kind of funny at least. Definitely not something you want to actually go into to play. It's just
I've never really played that one. That's the only Advance Wars game I haven't really messed with.
I'd recommend it. It gets a little down to the minutia for stuff, but it's been a lot of fun. And it has a really good selection of like the old maps too, so you can go back and play like the classic ones and everything in there. I've basically skipped most of the story. I just hit start and go into the fight.
Yeah, the story is never really.
I get the gist of what they need me to do, and then I just move on. I don't care, but it's a lot of fun. You should, if you like Advance Wars, try and find Dual Strike. It wasn't horribly expensive.
No, I'm looking at it right now. It's like not too bad.
I didn't pay like an exorbitant amount for it. I did find a copy of the original Advance Wars for Game Boy Advance, and that was $120. And I guess I don't have that anymore, so I'm like debating on it. That's in the box, like that's complete.
Yeah, that's still nuts though. That's
if I get that, I'm getting that for a like just a completionist thing.
Yeah,
I'm debating.
Well, then you have Battalion Wars for GameCube, and I think the second one is really expensive.
I have both of those. Battalion Wars 1 was on GameCube. Battalion Wars 2 was a Wii game.
Oh, and Wii, yeah, that's right.
Those are actually really fun. Like it's kind of interesting to run around from that perspective with the little Advance Wars guys. I wouldn't mind getting a mode of that. That would have been cool for the remake if they had a mode where you could like you play it like Advance Wars, but they let you actually get down on the ground with the characters as they run around to do stuff. That'd be kind of neat. The other thing is because we got our room done and I moved a bunch of the games in there and I finally set up a shelf that has all of my DS and 3DS and Game Boy Advance games. So one of the things I like to do now that all those are in my bedroom, if I'm just hanging out laying in bed, I'll break out my DS or 3DS and just grab a random game and start playing it. Just like, because that's a good place to play portable titles. And I have forgot how many weird games I've got. I ended up. Have you guys ever played Ace Combat on the 3DS?
Yeah. Oh no,
that's
on the 3DS.
Surprisingly good. Yeah, I was playing Ace Combat, and I ended up playing that for like 2 or 3 missions. I was like, okay, this actually works out well. The 3D looks good. I forgot I had already scanned in Amiibo, so I had a Link painted Legend of Zelda jet.
Oh, cute.
Which was kind of funny. And then I messed around with Ridge Racer DS, which was just a port of Ridge Racer 64. Not as much fun. That's pretty rough. A couple of the Kirby games, some pinball titles that I played, stuff like that. Basically just randomly, just ADHD, just going through every game, play it for a few minutes, move on to the next one.
Anytime you say Kirby, I half expect your daughter to just come bursting into the room and going, "Who said Kirby?"
Oh, I'm afraid of that. We haven't given her birthday stuff yet. We still have a giant Kirby blanket that's like super soft, as well as a ramen bowl set that's Kirby with its own little chopsticks.
Yes, I remember seeing pictures of the ramen bowl.
Yep. And she will be getting those. And I'm halfway tempted. This I found today. I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but it's a drinking cup or like a sports bottle that's got Kirby. So I'm kind of tempted to pick that up for her too. But other than that, like tonight, by the time you guys hear this show, Amanda and I will have gone to see Doctor Strange. Go ahead.
I don't know if you did this intentionally, but she is now literally eating, drinking, and sleeping Kirby.
Yep.
Yeah, she was already living Kirby, so
yeah, and living
living Kirby,
eating out of the bowl, drinking out of the bottle, and sleeping with the blanket. Hell yeah, you love to see it.
She has a Kirby pillow also already, so she's already sleeping on that. I bought her Kirby socks. She has Kirby shirts. She doesn't have a Kirby backpack. I found some pins for it. So yeah, no, that girl, everything Kirby she goes for. It's hilarious. Eventually, we're just going to end up painting her room that color pink and then painting Kirby's all over it. All right, so everybody went kind of quiet there. Joey, you still with us?
I'm here. Oh,
Joey completely froze up.
Maybe we lost Joey.
All right,
we'll do it really weird. There he is.
Oh,
that my interface just like fizzled out. I don't know.
Well, you're still
Gremlins.
There. People watching this on YouTube be like, I don't see what's going on because it's recording locally for you, so it's going to keep going.
Yeah.
So you're going to see our look of confusion and you just sitting there. All right, so we're going to go and jump into the news tonight. We might go through some of this a little bit quick because, like I said earlier, we have a movie date with Amanda tonight to go watch the new Doctor Strange in IMAX. To heck with you, Brent, for getting to go see it earlier in 3D. Darn it. He said it was good, though, so no spoilers. So starting off, this happened a little bit after our last recording, but Elon Musk decided to go ahead and purchase Twitter for $44 billion. He could have literally done anything else with this money. Like, he'd already been given detailed plans of how he could do for world hunger issues and all this stuff for only like $6 billion and some other things, and decided not to do it. But he wanted Twitter because he felt bad that he couldn't say what he wanted to say without getting in trouble, which is stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That's, But we also found out today that the whole purchase may have been blocked because there was a shareholder lawsuit that got filed today against him, as well as because of the Twitter deal, the Tesla stock took a nosedive. So he's lost a bunch of money with that as well. So we'll see how that goes. Everyone's just kind of back and forth with it. But do you guys have any thoughts before we move on from it?
I mean, if he was going to buy it like during the Trump era, I would be more receptive to. I mean, I still think it would be stupid because it's an insane amount of money for literally nothing.
Yeah.
But I get the logic there because I feel like, free speech and communication in these times is really weird. But Elon Musk is not the person to do it. Not literally the richest person in the world, the most privileged person in the world. Like, I don't know. That's not how we get there, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's already had examples of throwing fits and punishing people because of it. Either, stuff he'll say or do. Like, he even got down to someone gave him a bad review for something with a Tesla. So he personally went in and canceled their order they paid for a car, like just out of spite. Like, I can just imagine, someone says something bad about a Tesla or him or something, and he just flips out to remove them. He was also talking about wanting to implement, like, if you wanted to retweet something or quote tweet it, it was a fee you had to do, like, to monetize it, which that'll kill it right there.
Yeah.
Because all that would lean towards is people with more money being able to communicate freely and those without being restricted to talk. I mean, that's not free speech. That's another oligarch just doing crap. Anyways, hopefully he doesn't get it. So next up, Sony is finally adding VRR, or variable refresh rate, to the PlayStation 5. This update came out a couple of days ago. Most people aren't really going to do much with it at the moment. This will make a better experience for people that have TVs that will support it. Have you guys ever used this or know of this feature at all?
I don't know what it is.
Fan.
I don't know what it is. All I know is it was like VRR. I'm like, is that like more advanced VR?
Virtual reality.
Virtual reality redux. Ooh.
Oh, I want a poster for that now. Virtual reality redux. It's the HD remake of the old one.
Yes, exactly.
I feel like it causes more issues than it really solves, and it's sort of like something I feel like that maybe is good for the PS5 though. It's like a little bit PS5 is like compared to the series, it's like a little bit under it. So like it kind of this helps for sure a little. But
yeah, the implementation of how they did it is still very weird. Like they finally added it, but they've kind of added it in a broken way.
Yeah,
because if like say you're playing a game and like Elden Ring is a really good example. Like I use it on mine because its frame rate fluctuates like crazy. If you play Elden Ring, you know that thing is not stable. Like it's going to keep jumping around a little bit. You get screen tearing, all that. So like when I'm playing on the Series X, it will tell the TV when to refresh so you don't get the screen tearing, and it kind of smooths it out a little bit as you're playing. Now, if the frame rate drops below 48 frames, the PS5 will all of a sudden stop using the refresh rate. It's kind of weird how it does that. And then for the higher end, it's basically just giving you a cleaner gameplay without having to be as consistent for the frame rate every time. I've even looked into some of them where they'll do 40 frames a second and 120 hertz mode or the variation with it, and that helps smooth it out. It gets really technical, but I'm glad they at least are starting to put the feature in there because that was a weird thing.
Yeah, it's a weird omission.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Just to be aware, you have to have an HDMI 2.1 TV or screen to use it. It has to be compatible with that feature.
Why would you have a PS5 and not? I don't know.
Dude, there's people with PS5s that are playing at 1080p TVs. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, my computer monitor I finally got, my other one for here is a 2.1 compliant 4K, so I can, when I stream stuff, I can play off of this without having to go back to the TV every time, which has been great. Now, some of the games, there's a list of ones that will be in the coming weeks getting updates because they have a feature to enable this for games, but it's very hit or miss. Most titles have to have an actual update. So the ones that they've got that coming out for is Astro's Playroom, Call of Duty Vanguard, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Destiny 2, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Dirt 5, which God, it needed it, Godfall, which no one will play, Marvel Spider-Man Remastered, which could not look any better, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales proves me wrong, it could look better, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, already loved that game, but yeah, it had some screen tearing issues. So I'm hoping that'll fix it.
I'm anytime someone mentions the Spider-Man Remastered, I just think about the new face on there, and I'm just like, I don't like it, and I'm
Spider-Man, Scott the Woz.
Yeah, I'm worried.
That's why I don't like it.
It
looks like Scott the Woz.
I'm worried about the new one having the new face, and I just want to email them and be like, can we please have an option to have the old face? Okay, thanks.
The next one, they're just going to include Miles has now got the same face. Like, yeah, it's just,
I'm just like,
that would be all kinds of problems.
So,
Resident Evil Village, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which I haven't played that yet. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege and Tribes of Midgard, which that last one, I don't even know what it is. Anybody know what that is?
Is it like the MOBA game? Or wait, hold on.
No idea.
Let me look at
Let's look it up.
Oh, it's an ARPG. Yeah, this game. Okay.
That explains why I don't know.
I think I actually played this for a second. I think
it's not a good sign that you forgot.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, it's like this top-down AR. I did play this for like a second. I booted it up, and like started playing and then had to poop or something and then came back and I just got bored. I don't know. The poo distraction. I swear to God, it's a real thing.
Wow. All right. So
Lord.
I guess we'll finish with that one. So we'll see if Sony will further update this or how it'll go from there, but at least it's trying to get some of those features in there. So up next, Super Mario Brothers movie has been delayed again to April of 2023. So don't expect any of that this year. But a tweet from Nintendo, and this was really funny because it caused some confusion. Quote, "This is Miyamoto. After consulting with Chris-san, my partner at Illumination on the Super Mario Brothers film, we decided to move the global release of spring 2023, April 28th in Japan, and April 7th in North America. My deepest apologies, but I promise it will be well worth the wait." So a lot of people were thinking,
dude,
Chris-san,
that read like a shit post. Right. I honestly thought it was a shit post.
Honestly, anytime something starts with "this is Miyamoto," I go,
Well, maybe remember he doesn't have a Twitter account. I don't think.
He doesn't.
So he just doesn't
I like
care.
to think he just like picked up. He picked up the PR person for Nintendo of America actually went to poo while playing Tribes of Midgard. Midgard, and then Miyamoto was like hee and started tweeting that.
This is what you get for not locking your stuff. It's bad cybersecurity, guys. Miyamoto probably looks at Twitter and he's like, I don't want to do that. I already made PictoChat. I've made a better one.
What if Miyamoto bought Twitter?
There'd be a mini game in there somehow. I mean, somehow it would have jump physics, and I don't even know how that would work. So the Chris-san in question is Chris Meledandri. Not even going to apologize if I said that wrong. I have no idea. The CEO and founder of Illumination. A lot of people thought it was talking about Chris. What's his name? I wanted to say Chris Pine, but that's the wrong Chris.
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. Thank you. Too many Chris's. So many Chris's. So they thought he was talking about him because he's voicing Mario in this movie, which I still am terrified to hear how that's going to go. Everybody else I can kind of hear, like maybe they could do the role, but Chris Pratt just seems like a very weird choice for Mario.
When I think of Mario, I think of idiot Christian fundamentalists. So it really form follows function in this case.
Oh, okay. I must be. We'll have to talk about that. Maybe I'm just not interpreting Mario correctly. There's a whole subtext to the.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, you can't be anti-gay and also like lay pipe for a living. Like you just like something about Chris Pratt's policies with this just doesn't make any sense.
So you successfully made a laid pipe joke. Good job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So moving on. Yeah, I'm just not even going with that one.
Sorry.
No, you're good. It's even funnier because right now your screen is frozen again, so we can't even see you laughing.
Mm.
When they watch the video later, they'll see it.
We don't get what he's talking about. I can see him laughing right now. Welcome to the internet.
I regret things that I say sometimes as I'm saying them, but I have to see this thing through to the end. You know?
Remember, people, this is an unedited show. We just do it.
That's true.
And then they copyright it. We do it live and apparently somehow stole it.
True.
So Microsoft announces the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase. Their show that's going to be Sunday, June 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. So I find it kind of interesting that they're still doing the separate Xbox and Bethesda. Like they're just like, hey, we bought this company that we bought is so big connected to it that we're just going to include them in the announcements. The other thing I forgot to note it on here, but they did say almost every one of their development groups is going to have something to present to this.
That's nice.
So that's a lot actually. And this of course is because they're not doing E3 this year. There's not going to be an E3 once again. And
RIP E3.
Yeah, hopefully it comes back later, but yeah, they just kind of killed it. I get why they're not doing the in public E3, but even if they just kind of had a digital E3 that it would at least coordinate everybody together. So there's kind of like, hey, here's when all the stuff's coming out. Otherwise, it gets shotgunned out everywhere. It's a mess. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to see if they actually show any more Perfect Dark, because they've announced it.
Oh yeah, I'm really
They've
stoked to
worked on
see how that works.
I want to see what they do, because I'm kind of hopeful, but also terrified how this is going to turn
Same.
out.
I mean, Perfect Dark Zero sucks. So
I still go back and play it for jokes, but yes.
It's pretty bad.
I love the original Perfect Dark. I really liked the Rare Replay, like the Xbox Live Arcade version.
Yeah, that one was actually good. That was fun.
That was great. And then I also have the Game Boy Color.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. That one's rough too.
It's got Rumble.
True.
What were we going to say before?
Making the controls dual analog instead of the C buttons was something that game needed so badly.
Yeah, because all right, so this is how I used to play N64 shooters, because I never really had a problem with them, because the way my brain worked on that when I was holding the controller is the C buttons would be my movement in a two-dimensional plane, forward, back, left, right, strafe, and then I would use my left hand on the center stick to aim. But now all the modern shooters have flipped that, where you're aiming with your right while moving with your left. And every time I try and go back to an N64 game, it just breaks my brain. Like, I can't revert back to that previous age. My childhood is gone.
N64 shooters are like a blight against mankind. I feel like that did so much psychic damage to how I perceive console shooters.
At the time, it worked for me. Like, I almost want to make a custom N64 controller that has the stick on the right and the C buttons in the middle, so I can try and play it again.
Well, if you played it in an emulator, you bind the C buttons to the directions on the right stick, and it sort of similarly works to that, but it's still a mess,
Yeah, you could kind of do that on like, what was it, some of the Wii Virtual Console and stuff like that, where you could use the right stick as the C buttons, and that would work to a point. So here's another story. I don't know how much you guys knew about this. Are you familiar with Yuji Naka? Who that is?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're playing Phantasy Star.
Oh yeah, of course you know who Yuji Naka is. So recently, he was part of a team that released a game called Balan Wonderworld.
Love it.
Which was a hot mess, apparently.
I haven't played it. I have it, but I have not played it.
I know it was bad enough they took their own demo down, because they were just like, oh yeah, no, we can't have this out there.
I will say Frank licked it on stream. Somebody said it and he did it, and it was like a bad dog.
Frank's not drunk. Frank has cartridge food poisoning.
Yes, exactly. It went straight to his head.
Oh man. Oh man.
That's just terrifying.
That is terrifying.
Yeah. That's all right. I have video of Remy and some other people we got convinced to lick a Switch cartridge when it first came out, which is great.
I remember they were like, "Oh,
this is fine. This is."
I remember. God, I remember you showing me that video.
Yeah, and they're like, "Why don't you do it?" Like, no, I just watched you guys. That was my fun. I'm not doing this.
Yeah,
I know not to stick weird things in my mouth. So Yuji Naka stated he was fired 6 months before the release of Balan Wonderworld by Square-Enix, and this led to him filing a lawsuit against them. Now, he hasn't been able to say much about this until now, which he just came out about a week ago in a series of tweets, which are translated by VGC and a Twitter user, Cheesemeister3K. What a name.
What a name.
That's me.
Oh, he said the decision behind this was by the producer, promotional partner, sound director, project director, and HR over a conflict. This conflict is from a promotion involving a YouTuber arranging one of the in-game songs instead of them using an original score, as well as co-developer Arzes submitting a final build without fixing the bugs. They just went ahead and sent it in and said, oh yeah, now here's the game, before they could finalize it.
Doesn't things like that happen every day in the gaming industry, that last bit, and the game still goes out, and then guess what? They just patch it and then it's no problem. Good God.
Yeah. Well, it still came out pretty bad. Naka asked his lawyers to negotiate to allow him to address the issues in the game until the very end, because he was citing how, like, on Sonic the Hedgehog, they added in stuff like, when, as long as you had more than one ring you wouldn't die. Unless you had like at least one ring. That was apparently a late addition to the development. He's trying to say like, hey, even at the end, you can add stuff to it. And he had to resort to filing in court when that failed. Part of it was also Naka stated, translated again, quote, personally, I believe that it is a true disgrace that Battlefield Wonderworld was released in the state that it was in. I wanted to show the world an action game in its proper light. Therefore, I believe that Square-Enix and Arzest are companies that care about neither games nor their fans. Which I don't know like what all he could have actually fixed if he'd stayed on it. The other thing is apparently Square forbade him and restricted him from being able to talk to anyone on Twitter or any of the fans or anything. So when issues were brought up, he was not allowed to reply to them. If they did fan art, he wasn't allowed to like it or any of that. So everyone thought he just dropped from it and would not say anything about it. And once this lawsuit was going through, now he can finally say something. I don't think he could have fixed this, but I also kind of see why he'd be frustrated that he was working on it. They kept changing these things. He got booted out and they put it out in that state. Honestly, it should have been delayed again. But what are your thoughts on that? Like
a lot. So this is a multifaceted issue. So first of all,
getting the dry erase board out.
Yeah, Yuji Naka sucks ass. Look, he hasn't made a good game in 15 years.
Just remember, hold on, Joey, you have one F-bomb. We do PG-13 here. If you need to use it, feel free.
I know.
Oh my god!
I said a word earlier, but it was I said S posting, but I feel like that cancels out the swear word, because it's like it's just such a mild. Either way, Yuji Naka sucks ass. Hasn't made a good game in probably over 15 years. Actually, now that I think about it, in all of his producer roles, he's sucked recently. I don't know if you guys know this. Like, he's a terrible person.
Really?
Like, he's a straight up terrible person. There's a famous story about him telling one of the Sega offices, like one of their, I think like there was like a Western studio, and he walked in and he was like talking crap about them in Japanese and saying that, oh, we'll just take this stuff when they're done. And like, there's been numerous complaints and stuff that have come out about him. We need to like, as a culture, especially gamers are so annoyingly petulant about this, but we need to stop like giving one single creator or creative this like deification. Like, oh, Yuji Naka's working on that, or like, oh, Yoshi P is working on that. Which Yoshi P rules. Don't get me wrong. Not hating on Yoshi P at all, but I am hating on this deification about like, oh, this creative can save it all. Oh, we got Inafune working on Mighty Number 9. It's gonna be great. I feel like in art, the concept of an auteur does not apply to the same degree to video games. It's just such a more mechanical process.
Well, right? Not for a long time. I think some of that came out were back in like the Atari and NES days. You could have one person building the game and doing that, but
right. But
it's
the
too much of an industry now.
Different. It was a different concept. That was way more just mechanical.
Right.
But so like, okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not defending Square Enix at all here because I think Square Enix sucked, and I guarantee they hamstrung this development real hard. But it's like it's an unstoppable force, immovable object meeting situation, and I don't mean to be that guy who's like, there's two sides to every story, but yeah, there kind of is. In the fact that people like are getting partisan about this too. I've seen this a lot. Like, oh, Yuji Naka did nothing wrong, or like F Square Enix, stuff like that. It's like, bro, like, how cringe can you be? How unable to read the context of a situation can you be? It's all just wankery, man. But it does suck that Battlefield Wonderworld got the treatment that it did, because the thing is, though, those bug fixes, a little bit of polishing here and there, I don't think that would have saved the game.
Yeah, I don't think it would have either.
And yeah, that Sonic comparison is really cute. that works really well in like a nice, like a sweet little argument about like, oh, Sonic was a different game until they like the whole One Ring thing changed the balance. Sure, maybe in the 80s or maybe in the early 90s, yeah, but not in the year of our Lord 2021 when this came out.
Yeah, development is a whole different level for that.
When the game like trailer first dropped, I was like, oh, this reminds me of Nights into Dreams.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And then we didn't hear anything for like a while. And then there was another little thing that dropped, and I was just like, I don't know that this is going to be good. So I canceled my pre-order.
Yeah, I never bothered getting it. And the reason I wanted to cover this was not so much like I'm not trying to take sides on it, like, oh, you know, Naka got screwed or Square is doing this or that. But a lot of it's also just you don't hear about like a developer, especially a Japanese one, coming out this hard about, especially another Japanese development group. Like that kind of public outing doesn't happen that often. This is normally an argument behind closed doors. And I'm like, Naka, you may have just like shut yourself out from developing pretty much anywhere for a while. Like people are not going to want to touch that, regardless of how they feel about it, because of that public spouting of it. Or, I mean, do you guys agree or?
Rachel?
Because you don't normally see this between Japanese developers. It's like a kind of a taboo thing for them to just publicly do that.
I think people, you know, I see this happening more where people are more public about this because the game development world is changing, and we here in the States, we are super public about these kind of issues.
Oh yeah, no, we don't care.
We don't give a diggity dang. And I think
had fun time working here. That guy was a jackass.
Yeah. And I think it's going to become more common in other countries with other development teams because, you know, me personally, I want to know everything about a company before I would work for them, like that kind of thing, me personally. And I think this kind of goes in the same line, like this is what happened to this guy, and yeah, he might not have produced a good game in many, 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 many years, but like, I don't know how it was handled was the best way to handle it. You know?
Yeah.
Like you could have just delayed the game and gave him like 2 more people to help work on it and made it a little better. But
yeah, I think they just sent it to die. They wanted to be done with it, not pay for more development, just get it out.
Yeah.
And this ties greatly into what we'll talk about later with Square-Enix too, because there's a big reason for that for sure. So
for the last thing on here, before we move on to the next story, I'm trying to remember, and you guys can maybe refresh my memory on this one, but like the other major breakup I remember happening between a developer and a company would be like Kojima and Konami. And even then Kojima I don't think he came out this publicly to say stuff. A lot of it was kind of things said in the shadows or outside sources kind of fueling more of that, where you had like Jeff Keighley coming out on a show saying stuff to Konami about it. But even then, Kojima kind of didn't directly say stuff to Konami, unless I'm incorrect. If you guys remember something.
No.
Yeah, because that's kind of the last big separation like that I really remember happening this publicly, or at least close to it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Go ahead.
I was just remembering when you mentioned the Kojima's separation from Konami, I was just remembering all the memes about, you know, people going, oh yeah, Konami just kept him in a basement. And now they finally let him out. He got ready.
Yeah, that's how it worked.
That damn man got rescued.
Well, all they really did, they didn't let Kojima go. They just made a pachinko machine of him, and they just kept that. That's all they wanted.
Oh my god!
They just go downstairs and they're just like, Kojima still giving us stuff. Oh, it's terrible. All right, so a bit of sad news, and this one I'm not sure exactly how much of comic book fans you two are. I know you guys like some comics, but I don't know which ones you're familiar with.
Do you, bro?
Well, I just
this is all Omni.
not everybody knows who this is, though. Sadly, they should.
How do you not know who Neil Adams is?
I hate the fact I can answer that because I've talked to so many people who went, who?
Well, I mean, okay, I can understand like casual, like comic book movie fans, sure, but like anyone who's like even proximally interested in manga,
I guarantee Rachel is slowly raising her hand right now,
well,
which
you
is
don't know who Neil
hilarious because she
Adams
thinks we
is?
can't notice. I'm okay with
you
her
poor
not knowing
sweet
directly.
Summer child.
Well, I think this way. I'm okay with the fact she may not know him by name. A lot of people love comics and don't know the actual creators by name.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
that's a good point.
if we name some of the characters he created and show you some of the art, I guarantee you'll be like, "Oh, I've seen some of this. I'm familiar with what it came from."
I'm reading the different
Yeah.
And I know these characters, but I'm.
So sadly, Thursday, April 28th, at the age of 80, Neil Adams passed away. He had complications from sepsis, as is told by his wife, Marilyn Adams. He helped to create such famous characters as Ra's al Ghul, his daughter Talia al Ghul, the creature Man-Bat, and one of DC's first black heroes, John Stewart, aka Green Lantern, one of my favorite Green Lanterns. And I think one of the best characters they put into Justice League when they did the animated series. Like, that was just so well done. He also pushed to cover subjects like drug addiction, racism, overpopulation, and more, including such popular stories as Green Arrow with Speedy's drug addiction, where they had to actually go against the comics code and tell them, like, we're just not going to run. We're taking the banner off because we have to run this story, because that was a major hero that was dealing with an actual drug addiction at the time. And I remember seeing that as a kid going like, holy crap, they're covering that. He also helped to mentor many other artists that would go on to their own fame, such as Bill Sienkiewicz, influential artist. Sienkiewicz, thank you for thanks for fixing that. Influential artist on Moon Knight and New Mutants, and Frank Miller, who did The Dark Knight Returns. His son Josh Adams was quoted by the Hollywood Reporter to say about the other artists, quote, "It wasn't until I sat at tables at conventions next to the same people I would watch treat my father with such reverence that I understood. He was their father too. Neil Adams' most undeniable quality was the one I had known about him my entire life. He was a father, not just my father, but a father to all that would get to know him." So, even I didn't put it in the notes here, but like, he was pushing for things like proper pay for artists. He was the one that pushed along with them for getting to own actually own their copyrights for some of their characters, for owning the artwork, the original artwork. Instead of having it claimed or destroyed, they would get to keep it to use as other means of making money, where they could publish the comic and then sell their original art. So I knew him best from the Batman run that he did, that I got into from late 70s, early 80s, including I have one of the earlier versions that had the Man-Bat. They'd kind of republished the issues as a collection that covered some of the Man-Bat stories, and those were like some of the groundbreaking comics that I read as a kid. I still will go back, break that one out, that very same issue, and keep reading it because it's just so well done. So it's sad that he's passed. But he left a hell of a legacy in the comic book world and for a lot of other stuff. Like, I even noticed going back, like, cause he was kind of working on like that kind of like almost blue and gray Batman outfit.
Yeah.
The one that like the animated series is
it's based from,
based off of, yeah.
And even there was even references like to that suit in The Dark Knight Returns when Bruce comes back to be Batman. One of the earlier suits he's wearing before it gets shot in the chest is a variation of that blue and gray. It's kind of a throwback to Neil's design before he goes and changes suits and gets the other iconic one with just the big bat logo with no other stuff in the black and gray. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because he was an artist I followed since I was a kid.
Dude, his influence on comics is insane too. Like actually, you mentioned in the notes here about Bill Sienkiewicz and working on Moon Knight. In the '90s, Moon Knight comic run, which is questionable of quality, but there's like one little story arc where it's like kind of multiversal, just to keep it as cut and dry as I can. It's sort of like multiversal, and there's like a character who's definitely not Batman, but totally is Neil Adams Batman in it. That's like they even like almost acknowledge it.
Oh wow.
Like Moon Knight got a lot of stuff in the '90s for ripping off or being Marvel's Batman or whatever.
Yeah.
And I love that like low key shade to Neil Adams. It's so good, man. And it's like you see that so often with comic stuff, and I don't think a lot of like you said earlier, Jeremy. Like even if you don't know him by name, you've seen his influence in some way. So it's through all comic media, I swear.
Even just coincidentally, I stopped by GameStop before I came home to do the show today. And, when I found that Kirby cup that I showed you earlier, they had another one that had the Neil Adams gray and blue Batman, like with the logo and the headshot and stuff of it. And I was like, holy crap. So they're even still making that just of that version. So his style is always going to be there. It's also one of the suits I like to use in Arkham Asylum.
Oh yeah.
You can get that suit. Oh yeah. So he will be missed, but it's always nice to be able to go back and look at those comics and see that artwork. So if you've never got a chance to do it, take a look online. A lot of those are available, or just research it. You're in for a good time. All right. So moving on, Joey, you added a little bit of news here. Would you or Rachel like to dive into this one, please?
I've been talking a lot. Rachel, you want to take this?
Okay. So Final Fantasy 16 information kind of dropped from Yoshi P and producer Saito. There was a near reincarnation stream, and Yoshi P said that the trailer's done. Certain factors, though, caused the announcement to be delayed, but it should drop soon. The dev team has spent a long time polishing and debugging the game, and the game is pretty much complete, which is honestly, compared to I say this with fondness, compared to the development time of the last one, which a lot of it was not the dev team's fault. There was a whole host of factors in regards to that, but I think they learned from last time, and they said, okay, here's what we're not going to do, and here's what we are going to do. And it's worked out pretty well for them because they've had so much time to really, give it a good polish. And though people want to hear more about it and see more about it, we're not like, constantly like beating them up for it like the last time. And I feel pretty good about this next one, honestly.
Okay. I was actually honestly expecting it would take a lot longer for them to go. I didn't realize they were that far through development already.
I personally think that once 15 dropped and was in a place where it was solid, and they moved a good bit of that development team, they always split them off onto other things. I fully believe that the development on this game started shortly after the end of the last one. Like when the DLC was still coming out, they had probably already started on 16. So not like anything big, but they had probably already started it in some capacity.
Okay.
At least that's would be my thought. Do you have a thought, Joey?
I know you want to.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay. In terms of like when this game, because didn't they confirm exactly when it started, dev time?
I don't know.
Because I'm pretty sure that they said it had been in development for like a year and a half or 2 years when they first made the announcement.
Yeah.
Right?
So that would go in with, what I said, where they started development of it while 15 was still rocking and rolling.
Yeah, so, they have it listed when I
maybe
did
like
a quick
right
search
when it
about
finished.
4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like right when it finished, or like I'm sure they had concepts and stuff for it,
Yeah.
beforehand. And I think that like I think Heaven's Ward was like the big push for like Yoshi P's success, because that's like when like the end of Heaven's Ward was like when it really started to FF14 really started to become like a huger thing.
Right.
Yeah, my son won't stop playing it.
Yeah, we
Yes,
talk
Jeremy,
about that.
play something else.
Yeah.
He's killing my PS4 Pro.
But hey, just because he can stick with a game and you can't doesn't mean you should take it away from him.
I'm not. He pays for it. I'm not taking crap away from him. At least he hasn't moved in to take over my PS5. That I'm just waiting for that. Like, hey, can I try it out?
Oh yeah. I'm actually. Oh god, he's playing on a regular PS4. That
PS4
is
Pro.
Still a struggle.
He was playing on a PS4, and I was like, "Dear God, play it on the Pro. You're right there."
Yeah. Oh. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm really. I think the thing that really incensed me. I don't think that means in a bad way, I think. But the thing that really lit a fire under my butt that got me happy about it was that they made a concerted effort to say that FF16 is very much like a standalone kind of concept, right? Like the story is there, it's done, it's confident about what it wants to be, which is like more than any other Final Fantasy since 12.
They're not trying to turn it into its own sub franchise again.
Right. And 14 gets kind of a pass on this, but also it doesn't, because it started out as a complete mess. So
that was a hell of a turnaround story, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even now, it took until like the last like 4 years before I think 14 was really like confident of itself and like where it wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
But, that gives me a lot of hope, because I'm so sick of multiple games in the same area, and then like, oh, we're gonna have a novel and supplemental materials. Just like I'm not one of those boomers who is like, oh, the turn-based Final Fantasies are the best ones, because that's not really true. But I think that there was a philosophy back then that I think is sorely lacking now, and it's just making a good self-contained story instead of trying to make the epic. It's like, bro, just make a good story, make it be just a good solid piece of content, and that's all you need. It's not that hard. It's a lot more simple than I think Square-Enix really wants to make it seem.
They've been doing this for so long. They like to make things complicated and convoluted and mysterious. But nothing is complicated as Kingdom Hearts. So
yeah, well, that's different. That's their division of complication.
Yeah.
That's their whole thing of, oh, you think this game is complicated? Here, hold my beer.
Hold my beer.
But the thing is, just keep Nomura and Tabata and Nojima away from Final Fantasy. Just keep them away from it. Like, just bring in friggin' I don't know.
Didn't Tabata leave?
Yeah, he did leave, actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
true.
so you don't have to worry about that.
I'm just thinking about all the struggles. But no, yet Nojima and Nomura are still like double teaming every game with poo-poo. So like, and not even like the distracting kind of poo-poo. Like, they're putting it on there. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, but either way, it needs something new, and I think that this is really exciting. I'm really, really stoked for FF16, because there's not as much insurmountable hype around it. It's very like low key what they've said so far. They're not giving you these grand expectations, even though they haven't shown a lot. But
I don't feel like it's been shoved in my face.
Right. And I think that that's what it needs to be. I think that, the biggest thing that you're seeing that Square Enix really needs to learn from is that with Final Fantasy, they need like just a quicker turnaround time, less like a simmering in the public eye, less simmering in mass media. And I think 14 has proven that you can make a really good story every couple years. Right. I mean, granted that doesn't always apply to games, because
right.
You can't, they're still using the AR or the FF14 engine to play and tell these stories. But regardless, I'm stoked for it. This is really, really good news, but I'm not going to be able to get fully hyped until I see it. And that's fine. That's the way I want it to be.
I think we're going to get a trailer around what would have been E3 time.
I agree. Yeah.
That
this
makes
summer
sense.
for sure.
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense to me.
Now, I wonder if they're going to do their own showing or if they're going to do it in conjunction with someone else.
I think it really depends. I think it would be smart for them to do their own showing, but only if they have enough to amount for an entire, say, 30-minute thing.
Well,
Like-
that's a good segue, I think, to our next story of why
Yeah.
that might not be the case anymore.
Well, I mean,
Do you want to carry on? Do you want to keep going with that, Rachel?
I mean, I'll start it. I'll start
There
it.
you-
I'll start it. So Square-Enix is selling a number of their IP and developers to the Embracer Group to pay for blockchain, AI, and the cloud.
Say it with more anger.
I'm just like, okay, so the cloud, fine.
Think like they pressure washed.
Invest in the cloud. The cloud is okay. We're used to the cloud. The cloud's been here for a while now.
Yeah,
AI.
the cloud has functions.
Yeah, the cloud has functions. AI, I guess it's helpful. We don't want it to get too far.
I didn't know Terminator was going to kill us via Square, but
Exactly.
okay.
Hey, I mean,
Yeah, we got to go out some way.
we got to go out some way. Why not with Final Fantasy AI? You know, there are worse ways to die. And then block.
She didn't want to say it. She's getting sick.
I don't even want to say it. Like
block.
Battalion Wonderworld chain.
But maybe that's the reason why. Strictly that game's absolute not success. That's why they're doing it. Wow.
So
so it's expected to be complete by the second quarter of Embracer's financial year. So sometime by September of this year is when it's gonna happen. And I think there's more to it than they just want to invest in a particular thing. They just want to pay for a particular thing. I think there's more to it than that. But some of the studios they're selling, of course, is
before we dig into those, because before we list those off, the crazy thing about this is right now they're doing an agreement to acquire, but they're doing all of this for only $300 million. Now you think about how much studios have sold for recently, how many billions some of these studios have gone for. And then what they're selling off is a lot of their Western developers, but Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square-Enix Montreal are all going, which obviously they're going to have to rename that one.
Crystal Dynamics, good riddance.
Well, Crystal Dynamics, they get rid of their catalog of IPs that we're talking about: Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, Thief, Legacy of Kain, continue sales and operations of those studios, more than 50 backlog games.
What was Square Enix doing with Legacy of Kain?
They
were just sitting on it.
They're sitting on it and going, maybe it'll hatch, but no one else can have it because we got it now.
Like a mother hen,
just
like an angry condor over its giant egg. Damn,
my God.
But even with the stuff with Crystal Dynamics and all those, like they were working actively with Microsoft in regards to working on Perfect Dark, which they did come out and say that they are continuing that to work with that group. Of course, they're the ones that made the Tomb Raider games, which have been fairly successful. Like they have sold really well, but Square, for some reason, would keep coming out saying, "Oh, these were financial failures," even though they were critically acclaimed for at least the first couple of Tomb Raiders. The third one, I think, was kind of to a lot of people, but they made really good money. But I guess it was just never enough for what they wanted. They wanted like a Final Fantasy release, which makes no sense to expect a game other than that to get that.
Yeah.
You can't just rule it as a failure because you're measuring it to that. And then Crystal Dynamics
likes to doom Western stuff. They're like doomers about all their Western projects.
Well, this pretty much cuts out most of their Western development. They're going back to being just the Japanese side. Crystal Dynamics is actively working on several AAA projects, including the next mainline Tomb Raider game that will deliver next-generation storytelling and gameplay experiences. Yes, that was a quote. Otherwise, I would not talk like that. Now, their press releases are... This is going to be being super corporate. And
you're just reading it. You're not. You're not expressing it.
Let's go here. So the Embracer's press release. The acquisition brings a compelling pipeline of new installments from beloved franchises and original IPs, including a new Tomb Raider game. The acquisition builds on Embracer's mission of creating a leading independent global gaming and entertainment ecosystem. Embracer has been particularly impressed by the studio's rich portfolio of original IP, housing brands with proven global potential such as Tomb Raider and Deus Ex, as well as demonstrating the ability to create AAA games with large and growing fan bases. There are compelling opportunities to organically grow the studios to maximize their commercial opportunities.
Why does it sound like a robot wrote it?
Because it did.
Yeah, I'm going to be sick. That's the AI. That's the whole purpose of their AI they're developing.
Jeremy was practicing his Borg.
Or maybe he was briefly overtaken.
To maximize commercial opportunities.
He was briefly overtaken by the Final Fantasy AI.
Well, now for the Square-Enix press release. This one's even better. The transaction will assist the company in adapting to the changes underway in the global business environment by establishing a more efficient allocation of resources, which will enhance corporate value by accelerating growth in the company's core businesses in the digital entertainment domain. In addition, the transaction enables the launch of new businesses by moving forward with investments in fields including blockchain, AI, and the cloud.
The cloud.
The cloud.
The cloud.
We get it. They can't move away from Final Fantasy VII. Leave cloud alone.
Yeah.
That was a good one, man.
That was a good one.
Hey, that was a good one. Okay.
You know, when they started talking about cloud saves, I was like, I swear to God, if the icon is not the Buster Sword or Cloud's head.
The Lego head.
The Lego cloud head. Yeah. But alas, they did neither of those things, really. So such a shame. Such a damn shame.
So the irony in this is also the fact the NFT market has been tanking the past couple of days as Square Enix sold off so many of its IPs to further into this market, which
I don't think they're gonna. I think this is the reason they're giving, but I don't think it's actually gonna happen because they're selling it, but they're not. They don't have that money yet. They don't have the money yet. So.
Yeah, but I mean, they've already made into the agreement to do it. So as long as nothing else changes, that agreement to acquire has already occurred.
Yeah.
And finishing by July to September of 2022, that's pretty soon. I mean, that's going to be. If we had an E3, that would have been part of that. So this kind of leads us into the roundtable I wanted us to have tonight, which I said this would be a little bit of a shorter show, but I thought this would be a fun topic, especially with the two of you. And because Rachel always loves it when I'm involved in a Square Enix talk with her, famously so. She's just like, God damn it, not again. So my question is, with Square Enix following their past actions of rash decisions that led to Square's merging with Enix originally, thanks to movie production that they swore they could do, put out one movie and one part of the Animatrix before they went bust.
Pure Kino, a cultural reset. The best thing I've ever seen. The Spirits Within. Actually, I kind of like The Spirits Within. Like, it's kind of...
I liked it.
So stupid. Yeah. It's pure, concentrated late 90s, early 2000s. And that's very nostalgic to me.
Oh, I can easily see it being part of like some music video from back then.
Oh yeah, it's like a Linkin Park supplemental or something.
Oh yeah,
it came on like a new metal something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But with them merging with Enix originally, who do you think would step in to purchase or merge with them now if this new venture into blockchain, AI, and the cloud leads to another fall?
No one. That is the stupidest thing. It's so dumb. All these, again, sweaty nerds. Everyone's like, dude, what if Sony bought Square? Shut up! I don't think anything pisses me off more than that kind of stuff. It's like people who have no idea how like big companies work and being like, oh, I really want Sony to buy it. Just,
well, I'm not talking about like that. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Sorry, no. What do you like?
I'm just meaning because they did have this issue in the past where they invested into something, put so much into it, and then it ended up failing, and they had to kind of just merge, which does happen in businesses. Sometimes they'll merge with each other.
Well,
I'm not talking about like an
Enix.
acquisition.
Yeah,
they merged with Enix, and that's
Enix saved their butt.
They really did.
Because a lot of people think it's the opposite way. Square was the one that was in trouble, not Enix.
Yeah. No, they just used Square's name first because it had more like
More
global
Right.
acknowledgement. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, this is a different situation, I think, because failing to meet these blockchain NFT demands is not going to tank them nearly as hard as they did back then, right? And all these things are very calculated. All these risks are very calculated. And another reason why Square Enix they didn't just drop this just to put money toward the blockchain stuff, that was a big part of it. But handling all these studios internally was a huge ordeal, and it puts an enormous workload on the people who were working across the different departments in Square Enix proper, right? Especially Western side.
Yeah.
So a big part of this was you have stuff like the COVID market and the labor shortages and all that kind of stuff. And then just Square Enix fumbling the Western market in general, the Western studios in general, which is the whole thing. So I don't think anyone would step in to merge or whatever if it leads to another fall. I don't really see that being the case. I think Square Enix is such an established company that wouldn't really need to happen. All these stuff, these things are all very calculated. Now I could eat my words, but that's just my opinion, man.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not sitting here going like, oh, they should be bought out and all that. I'm just like,
right.
They've messed up before where they got into a financial issue and they had to kind of do this to cover part of the debt. And my only concern with it is not so much this one sale, but they have been very actively talking about how they're focusing on NFTs and blockchain and things like that. And it's like, okay, you're getting into a very volatile market, which we're now seeing like every couple of days. I'm seeing like this group loses millions of dollars because this thing failed or this happens.
Yeah.
And I'm worried they're going to get themselves so weighted into it thinking, because they're publicly pushing with this. And I think you guys were going to talk about the issue being also with their board, which I will let you two talk about that because you are way more knowledgeable than I am. But the developers will do one thing, the board will do something stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's always the case.
The
Yeah.
board
And
and
that's
the
my
board
line
and the
to
president too. Oh my god. Okay, so Jeremy knows my stance on one of the former heads of Square, Wada.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Wada is almost entirely to blame why Versus 13 ended as it did and why we got 15 the way it was. Since he kept moving devs around because he wanted 13 to go on forever. And so a lot of these decisions that are made are at like the really upper level and at the decision of the board. And I think maybe, I'm not sure how old their board members are, but I think partially if they have any newer younger folks on the board, it could be a decision from them. Or if they have the same people on the board that they've had forever, it could be that they are trying to do this to cater to a younger market that thinks these things are popular. So they think they're adapting, but
the NFTs are good with kids, right?
Not kids, but they're popular. So they're trying to do what's popular to trying to, get like right on the coattails of that kind of success in regards to NFTs. And it's just I get their reasoning, but I think their reasoning isn't necessarily sound. It's with every fad. Everyone rides on the train of the fad, and some people get off the train at the proper stops and they don't experience too bad of consequences.
What are you talking about, Rachel? Pogs are everywhere.
I know. Pogs are everywhere.
I swear to God, I actually saw an ad for a new set of Pogs right now because the guys from Way Forward made a Pog set for Shantae that they were selling.
Oh my God.
I was like, that is a great throwback, but oh my God, Pogs.
Wow.
Ouch.
But
so glad I missed that at my age.
It's, things make a comeback, but I don't think NFTs are here to stay. I really don't.
Yeah.
I think that this is not a great decision, but I really think that it's more at the upper management board level decision that this decision is being made. I don't think the devs on any team probably really in the general sense agree. But I think there's reasons to sell off IPs, and one of these being, of course, labor shortage due to how COVID has, of course, hurt the world, especially game development. But selling off IPs and companies and stuff like that to then invest in NFTs and blockchain, which can possibly lose you more money. It might get you a quick boost and a quick
and
thing,
for so little money, 300 million is still just seems
that's so little for like what everything was.
It's insultingly low.
But maybe, but maybe, even though they're selling it for such a little amount of money, maybe that's kind of smart because it's not as much in the scheme of things. So if they lose, it's
exactly. That's 100%. I was going to say, because it's like, and also I don't know the details of that whole situation, right? Like I don't know if like maybe they only owned a slightly majority share, right?
Yeah.
So then rather than selling 80% of the company, they're selling 52%, right? So, or something like that. So it's difficult to say, or of the studios. So it's difficult to say exactly why. What's up?
Well, for these, they are outright buying them. They will be part of this company, no longer part of Square.
Like but what I'm saying is, when Square acquired them, I don't know what the stipulations of their deal was, like how much they ended up paying for them versus like how much,
I think these three were solely part of Square, because I remember the one of the Comic-Cons I actually did get to go to, talking with the people there because I was doing interviews with them, and they had some of the guys from Crystal Dynamics and everything there were kind of talking about it. But yeah, they were wholeheartedly a part of Square. It wasn't like an ownership of part of it. They just outright were merged into it.
Okay. Gotcha.
But it just seems like they're selling off that part of it for that less, just to get the finances to jump into this more. Seems kind of like almost like a desperation move almost to me.
Yeah.
Like I understand, like I said, the shortage, if there's people and so forth, which I haven't heard of there being any in regards to these developers, because you're going to have your normal set, then you'll have people coming into work temporarily and so forth. That can be adjusted,
but look at the timeline of releases that Square has had. It's been very troubled. Square has a lot of projects internally that either don't get, like Chrono Cross, a perfect example. I mean, I know this is, Square proper, but like that game had been kicking around for X amount of time, right? Like there's a lot of projects that just don't get released in a timely manner with the right kind of resources, because everything is just jamming up in the works, right? And when you have that many studios, you have international companies, and there's a lot of cross talk and logistics that really just bog down the whole process. So that's sort of what I was talking about.
They need to hire on a couple of time management experts is what they need to do. No, they need to fire those people and get different ones, because apparently that's part of their problem, I think, because there's so much overlap, and they keep ping-ponging devs to different teams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not just devs, it's like people who work on all aspects of the company. Like, people who work PR, or people who work legal,
they're ping-ponging people is what they're doing. And I think that's where a lot of hangups happen. Or maybe they're just there's so much going on, and there's so much they've got too much on their plates. And I think the hidden benefit from them selling off all of this is that some of this is going to be off their plate.
Yeah, now they can the creative aspect of those companies can like kind of exist a little bit more unfettered from BS corporate.
Because I pulled up, I wanted to look and see what their most recent games for each of the companies were. And in regards to like Eidos Montreal, their last one they put out was Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, which has been fairly successful. Like, it has been pretty critically acclaimed. It's been a really well done game.
Mm-hmm.
Its biggest holdback was people associating it in regards to Crystal Dynamics' last release game, which was Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which they were kind of under the gun for that one. Because I think that was Square kind of messing with it as well for the microtransactions and everything, because they originally did not want to do those. But they're still in the process of working on Perfect Dark and then the next Tomb Raider. And then Square-Enix Montreal, I haven't been able to verify this or not, but they were working on Hitman. So I'm wondering if Square also gave up Hitman, because that has been a fairly successful.
Yeah, that's been
and recent,
oddly lucrative. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
both for console and mobile.
I partially think that, this happens a lot with Japanese companies, I've noticed. Like, the corporate side of things likes to have their hands in everything. They do.
Yeah.
I
agree.
They do. And they like to have their hands on everything. They like to feel that they contributed in some way.
Yeah.
Whether
for good or bad. I mean, you look at like
bad.
how Nintendo messed with, that they would put their hands in, which led to Metroid, which is great. And then you have stuff like this, which was bad.
Yeah. Which I think them acquiring all those different IPs, them having all those other companies, I think they on some level probably learn from that. Like, this is too much. We're going to sell it off and we're going to do this. Is what they're doing smart? No. But at least now that they can kind of take a step back and focus on their more internal developed stuff, as opposed to having a whole bunch of like hurricane of games in the middle of everything occurring at once, if that makes sense.
I think I could finally say it. Square Enix bought Jump and Shoot, and so we've had to rebrand and change our name. So I don't want to.
They bought this podcast. Hey, we get to work together more.
Oh yeah.
No, they didn't actually buy this pod, but like the proximity allows some. It's like a dream team. It's the Chrono Trigger dev team of podcasts, really. So
I'm the mobile version.
The mobile. The pay to win.
Oh my god. But yeah, I think we'll see some good and some bad from this. The good being they have less on their plate in terms of games, and the bad being they could lose a whole have we dropped an F-bomb yet?
No,
go for it.
Okay.
It's your turn.
They will possibly lose a whole fuck ton of money off
there you go. PG-13 acquired.
The ton mitigates it.
Yeah.
A little bit, I think.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Well, the other part that's concerning to me is the fact that the Embracer Group, if you ever try and look, like I tried to look at the list of companies they own, people are all worried about like, Microsoft or Sony acquiring this, like, it'll be a monopoly. This list is oppressively long of the companies they've bought.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple of them. Dark Horse Media, like that's a whole media company for comics and entertainment they own. Gearbox Entertainment, Koch Media, Saber Interactive, THQ Nordic. And now they're adding these three companies to that. Like they're a fairly large, faceless organization that is buying up a lot of these companies. I'm more concerned about them and some of the other ones that are over like in China and stuff that are buying up a lot of these versus worrying about what Sony and Microsoft are doing. They're, they may be consolidating some, but they're not doing this. Like, dear God. But it's just going to keep going that way for a while, I think. And I'm just kind of wondering what they had to do.
NFTs would die.
They will eventually.
They will. And it's like, it sucks too, because, I think the idea of an unregulated or not a decentralized currency was really cool.
Yeah.
And
it has good uses. It's just being fucked with.
Right. And in the way that it all developed, I mean, not once in the entire timeline of NFTs and crypto has it ever really been good. But there was like potential, like the concept had a lot of potential. And it was like maybe like a good testing for something. And it really sucks that this is where we are now because people are this stupid. And I don't know. I just like the toxic fumes of late stage capitalism really starting to seep into everything in a more
Yeah.
noticeable way. So
Yeah, it's gotten pretty bad, but I think that was a pretty good discussion though on this topic. So I do appreciate that. So
You
I
know
think we'll go
me.
ahead.
I'm
Oh
always
yeah,
glad to talk Square Enix.
even when they're messing up.
Even when they're doing stupid stuff. Sometimes I think I'm their mom and they won't listen to me.
One of these days, I'll just give you enough of a heads up. Like, we got Square Enix news, and you just come dressed in a cosplay.
Honestly,
She's like, I'll
don't
do
be
it.
surprised. I'll do it.
I won't. I would not be surprised for a moment. All right. So before we go into our closing, I want to just bring up one quick topic. This is getting outside the world of gaming and nerddom, and this is just being on a serious note. And I will speak for myself. You guys are free to say as you wish on this, but this is myself, Jeremy Powers, the host of this show. But this whole point that's come up recently about Roe versus Wade and the Supreme Court trying to shut that down by some of the dumbest excuses I've seen. And I'm glad this got leaked. That person that leaked it, that is not a crime. That is the right thing to do. This is something that is messing with people on a fundamental basis of their livelihood and their self-being. And I firmly believe that abortion itself needs to be the law of the land and the right to, for a woman or anybody, honestly, to have autonomy over their body. I love my kids. I love children. I have no problem with that. And I'm not trying to get all into it, but before that child is born, especially as early as some of these people make these decisions, over 95% of abortions are within such an early stage. It's just a lump of cells. That is not a person. It is, you are deciding someone else's life based on decisions that are sometimes out of their control. And those decisions should not be anybody's. I'm just gonna throw in a third F-bomb, to hell with it. No one's fucking business but the woman or the individual, period.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else should have a right to say into that. Now, with our kids, we've talked about this before. All three of our kids were premature. They were very hard pregnancies on Amanda. They were very tough for us to deal with. So whenever we found out we were having John, our youngest son, because he was a complete surprise, she was on birth control. Jennifer was still in the NICU. She was a 13 and a half ounce baby. And we were going back and forth, struggling for her to survive. And this had happened twice now. And it ended up happening again with John, but we were worried that that could be an issue in regards to that. So we had that discussion. Obviously, we decided not to do that. We love our kids and we wanted to do it, but it was our decision. Honestly, it was her decision. The fact that I was in that conversation is a matter of respect between the two of us, not just a given right. It is her control over her body, just as it is my right to control what happens to my body. And that is a fundamental, I would even say constitutional right to a person's being that needs to be protected, and we'll fight for that. So yeah, this whole movement of trying to remove that is just an absolute affront to the liberties of what people have.
And trying to deflect that with, yeah, right. No, I'm 100% with you. I think, and trying to deflect that whole severity of that situation with what they leaked the thing, it's a constant, like, okay, yeah, it doesn't matter if if something like a really good decision got leaked, who cares? Like, this is the age of information, man. This kind of stuff is going to happen, right? Obviously we shouldn't do that, but there needs to be more transparency in this process, period. This is something that we don't really publicly elect officials for. Why are we being kept in the dark about it? I mean, granted, when this country was founded and these rules and processes were founded, things were different. And there hasn't been enough malleability there to adjust for the year of our Lord 2022. So no, it's ridiculous. And I think it's anyone trying to deflect that issue with like, American justice, liberty, rights, like literally just be the shit that I took that distracted me from Tribes of Midgard. That's the kind of person that you're being. Like it sucks. That's my addition to it.
I personally, so I try not to involve myself in political talk too much, on any facet, mainly because it can be very polarizing and it can be very stressful. And me personally, it makes me nauseous. But I firmly believe that people should be able to do with their bodies what they want. And people also should be able to love who they want. People really honestly should be able to do what they want, how they want, where they want, and why they want, short of, not killing people. So and by like killing people, I mean, the purge, outright murder kind of stuff. But like,
don't tempt them.
Right, exactly. But I get really tired in regards to the federal government poking their nose into things that they ought not to be poking their nose into. Like, I don't know. Like, leave it alone. Leave it alone.
I mean, to be fair, we could have aborted Elon Musk. That could have been an option that we had. And if that option is taken away, then what?
Yeah, I get tired of that argument. Oh, what if your mom had aborted you? And I'm like, then I wouldn't exist. And that would be different.
And I couldn't even answer that question.
Right.
Right.
And I feel this on two fronts too, because A, I was born premature. B,
so was I.
Preemie the only fat baby here. I'm the fat baby.
I was a fat baby, but not initially.
I was born 2 months premature, and I was 2 pounds 7 1/4 ounces.
Oh my God!
So you're the size of my kids.
I was I
baby.
I came out screaming like a cat. Yeah, no lie. My dad nearly fainted because of how tiny I was.
So not only that, but also a child of adoption. And I've seen firsthand like what kind of insanely corrupt experience that has been. And so many people who are like, I can't believe we're having this conversation in 2022. This should have ended with Roe versus Wade. Like that should have been like, okay, let's move on now.
Yeah.
We messed up. We all made bad decisions before as a society, whatever. Let's
you learn to move on.
Yeah. And I mean, granted, it's never that easy, but to have to keep doing this song and dance again, it's disgusting and it's exhausting and ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
It seems like every other week there's something happening with the government that I'm just like,
it's exhausting.
What's next? Now, I will admit I did have a lovely distraction, and it's still a distraction, of the Depp and Heard trial, which is hysterical. If you guys haven't watched
that one.
Oh,
I've seen bits of it, but
oh my God. If you want to distract yourself from all of your cares or worries, just watch some recaps of that and just enjoy.
I'm completely against that concept, honestly, because I think giving celebrities more of a window is ridiculous, and I think that like glorifying that kind of like I've heard a lot of people say it's like reality TV or whatever.
I'm not like I'm just watching it because I want to know what happens.
Right, but even still, like I think. Don't get me wrong. I think both of those people suck pretty bad.
Yeah,
but like one sucks more than the other for sure.
Very much so. Yeah.
But I think that like this is the kind of stuff that we focus on. It's just distracting. It's like it's like an opiate, and it's ridiculous. That being said, dropping a grumpy on the bed absolutely took me out. That sentence, dropping a grumpy on the bed, is going to be in my head,
anyways,
rent free, no landlords for the rest of my
Some
existence.
of the most interesting things to come out of this trial is the facial expressions of everybody in the courtroom. Literally everyone in the courtroom. Right. I maybe check what's going on with it like once every couple of days, because it's going to be going on for a while.
And I think my issue with that is like part of like what we're trying to talk about here, though, is like it's a distraction.
It is.
What?
And they probably did this on purpose. They probably started this in the midst of this, thinking people wouldn't pay attention to it. That's probably something.
Regardless, it's their private matter that's going on. I don't think there should be cameras and stuff in there all the time.
No. I'm talking about what we were talking about before. They probably started this while the other trial is going on.
Well,
simply
they had
because,
that.
I believe fully. I believe that something got somebody else trying to timeline.
Yeah.
But my biggest thing for this, the takeaway is like a lot of people are claiming like, oh, I'm Christian or I'm this, and that's why we're against it. And I will fight for someone's religious freedom. If you, because of your religion, don't want to take a medicine, or you don't want to get an abortion or do these certain things, great. That is your religious belief. That will be protected just as much as everybody else's.
Yeah.
But the moment your belief affects anybody else, you don't get to stop and say someone who doesn't believe what you believe has to follow that rule for that medical requirement or the education or what they're doing. You've crossed the line. That's why there's a separation of church and state that people are stupidly forgetting or ignoring. They're not forgetting, they're purposely ignoring it.
Yeah, it's because it fits a narrative, for sure.
Because when the country was founded, they purposely left out a set religion. They did not want a set religion. They always forget to mention that that's in there. They kind of find some other way and try and say, oh, it was a Christian nation. No, it wasn't. It was not. Like, it was for all kinds of things. So regardless, we have to teach this to full-grown adults like we did kindergartners. But in regards to medical and everything else, keep your damn hands to yourself. That's the basis.
Honestly, you like I said, I don't often talk about political things. In fact, I am very much against talking about it at work. And I've had to tell, I've had to tell coworkers, I said, this is not the time to be conversating about that. And I am not going to talk about it.
Well, I wanted to be clear also that before we started the show, I mentioned this to you guys, and I wanted no pressure that you had to mention anything or feel that a view was forced on you or anything. I wanted everyone to be able to say what they wanted if they wanted to. So
I personally feel that, it's let the people do what they will and just leave it alone. Like, you know me, I've always been very neutral and also very accepting on many different fronts. And this is also one of those things.
Right. All right. Well, that got serious.
Yeah.
So let's just say dumb things as we go out. So Rachel, we'll go ahead and start with you first. Where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me at twitch.tv/outrageous, or you can find me at Twitter or Instagram under _rageous. So usually I post on there when I'm going to go live on Twitch, or sometimes I just post stupid crap on Twitter. If you go on my Instagram, though, you will probably see in my story my very long rants in regards to the difficulties I've had today. But yeah, you can find me there, and that's where I post stuff. Yeah, and it's gonna be great. Follow me.
I don't ever use Instagram, but I just followed you on Instagram.
Oh, Joey.
We've made a connection.
Why are you a low-level owl? Why aren't you a high-level owl?
It's just what I am.
Okay.
So, Joey, where can we find you on the internet?
Anywhere but Instagram, apparently. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/podcastjump. You could find us on Twitch, and Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts. Every Thursday night, we do Super RPG Friends through Monstervine, so twitch.tv/Monstervine official. We're still playing through Phantasy Star 4. We're roughly about halfway through, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, probably more than the less. And we're going to be doing a new game soon, and then moving on to our PlayStation arc in the next couple months. So
jumping up in technology.
Yeah, that's our. We started with Super Nintendo. We did Genesis, and then PlayStation 1, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Well, at some point,
I need to take forever.
Yeah, at some point I need to get up with you because I did install and sign up for that Phantasy Star Online thing we talked about too.
Hell yeah. We definitely do need to play that.
I had some hilarious difficulty with that, so I'm not sure if I will join.
Yeah, a lot of people
like did. literally my antivirus was going, no, do not pass go. Do not collect any money at all, not even $1.
No, yeah, you don't even get tax on it.
No.
It runs great on mine. I just need to get a controller attached to it so I can use that.
Yeah, I was
trying to play that with a mouse and keyboard sucked.
Yeah, I was
just use a USB-C. That's what I do.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to plug in my Xbox controller that way.
Just that guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've been your host, Jeremy Powers. You can find me at Zenspath, Zenspath over on Twitter. My Instagram is ZenspathCom, which is also my YouTube at youtube.com/ZenspathCom. That's where you can find the video version of this podcast, as well as my moving forward video series that I work on. And if you're listening to this, that's where you can watch it. If you're watching it, then you can also listen to the audio version of this over on iTunes or zenspath.libsyn.com. That's zenspath.libsyn.com. Or anywhere else you find podcasts, you can download them from there. And then if you want to talk with us directly, you can join us over on our Discord at bit.ly/ZenspathDiscord. That's bit.ly/ZenspathDiscord. All right. And this has been episode 66, and we are out. Peace. I'll just drop a fourth fuck bomb. Leave women's bodies alone. Let them make their own decisions.